All right, so we're diving into Google Compute Engine today.
Oh, GCE.
Yeah, GCE.
Okay.
I think this is something that a lot of our listeners are probably exploring as they kind of get into the cloud and, think about all their options.
Right.
So let's unpack this a bit. What is it? Why is it a big deal? And how can people actually get started with it?
Yeah, so GCE, or Google Compute Engine, it's really become a cornerstone of modern computing. You can think of it as like this virtual data center.
Okay.
Instead of having racks of servers in your basement or whatever, it's all powered by Google's global infrastructure.
Okay, that sounds pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But I think we need to take a step back just for a second.
Sure.
When we say GCE, what are we actually talking about? Are we just talking about like renting servers from Google, or is there more to it?
Yeah, it's a little more nuanced than just renting. So with GCE, you're creating virtual machines or VMs, and these are essentially like software-based computers. And the cool part is you get to customize them. You choose the processing power, the memory, the storage, everything you would pick if you were building a physical machine.
So it's kind of like I'm going online to a website, like I'm buying a computer, I'm picking out all the different specs, I'm getting it custom built, but instead of like waiting for it to ship to me, I just instantly have it in the cloud.
You got it. And that's one of the big advantages of GCE. Because it's in the cloud, you can scale those resources up or down on demand.
Mm-hmm.
Need more power for a big job? No problem. Just add more VMs.
Okay.
Project finished. Scale back down to save money. It's all about that flexibility and efficiency.
That makes sense, but if I'm running a bunch of virtual machines, isn't that going to get expensive?
That's a common question we get. So with GCE, you have a pay-as-you-go model.
Okay.
So you only pay for what you use, and there's also discounts for sustained use.
Okay.
So the longer you run them, the less you pay. And then there's also something called preemptible VMs. And we can dive into those later, but these can save you up to 80% compared to regular VMs.
All right, that's pretty good, especially for someone like me on a budget.
Right.
Okay, but let's get back to this whole virtual data center idea.
Yeah.
What are some real-world examples? Like, what are people actually doing with GCE?
So the possibilities are vast, but one of the most common uses is web hosting.
Okay.
You have a website, you experience traffic spikes, during a sale, a product launch or something.
Yeah.
GCE can automatically scale your server capacity to handle that load. No more website crashes.
Yeah, no one likes that.
No more slow loading times.
Makes sense.
And it's not just about traffic spikes. GCE can help businesses achieve global reach as well.
Okay.
So remember, it's powered by Google's infrastructure with data centers all over the world, so you can deploy your applications closer to your users wherever they are. Fast loading times, seamless experience.
So it's not just about the virtual machines, it's about reaching a global audience.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And then there's also the security aspect. Google takes security very seriously, and GCC is built with multiple layers of protection.
Right.
Your data is automatically encrypted at rest and in transit, and you have very granular control over who has access to your resources.
So I don't have to worry about people snooping around where they shouldn't be.
Exactly. You have a lot of control there.
Okay, so we've got the scalability, we've got that global reach, we've got the security. It sounded pretty good.
Yeah.
I remember earlier you mentioned this live migration feature. What is that all about?
So live migration is really a game changer, especially for businesses that can't afford downtime.
Okay.
Essentially, it allows Google to perform maintenance on their physical servers without interrupting your VMs.
Wow.
So your applications just keep running seamlessly as if nothing happened.
That's pretty incredible. So even if Google's doing routine maintenance, my website's up, my app's up,
Yeah.
I'm not losing customers, I'm not losing revenue.
Exactly, no downtime.
It almost sounds too good to be true.
I know, it's pretty remarkable, but it really highlights the level of reliability that GCE offers.
Okay.
And it's not just about keeping things running. GCE provides tools for managing your VMs, automating tasks, monitoring performance. It really is a complete cloud computing solution.
Okay, I'm starting to see why people are so excited about this.
Yeah.
But let's get down to the nitty-gritty. How do I actually get started with this?
Good news, getting started is pretty straightforward.
Okay.
You access everything through the Google Cloud Console, which is like your central command center for all things Google Cloud.
Mm-hmm.
You can create your account, launch your first VM, and even try out some features for free.
Wait, you're telling me I can go right now,
Yeah.
start playing around, start experimenting? I don't even have to spend any money.
Exactly. So there's a free tier
Right.
that gives you a certain amount of resources to play around with. It's a great way to just get your feet wet, see how it works before you commit to anything.
Perfect. All right. I'm definitely going to check that out.
Yeah.
But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, what about actually setting up a virtual machine?
Right.
What are the key steps there?
So once you're in the Google Cloud Console, you navigate over to the Compute Engine section, and from there you'll see a button that says Create Instance.
Okay.
And that will take you to a page where you can choose your operating system, customize your hardware settings, and configure your networking options.
So it's kind of like I'm building that computer from scratch again.
Exactly.
But virtually.
Yep, you can choose everything from the processor and the memory to the type of storage, the size of your hard drive, and you can always change those settings later if your needs change.
Okay, so I've got my virtual machine. I've got it configured how I like it. Now what? How do I actually start using it?
All right, so now you can connect to your VM remotely,
Okay.
just like you would with a physical computer on your network.
Okay.
You can use SSH, secure shell connection to access the command line, or you can use a graphical interface if you prefer.
And once I'm connected, I can just start doing my thing?
Yeah, install software, run applications, pretty much anything you could do on a regular computer.
Okay, so this is all starting to make sense. But, I got to ask, with all this talk about virtual machines and the cloud and all this infrastructure,
Sure.
what about security? How do I know that my data is safe, that it's protected?
That's a great question, and one that Google takes very seriously.
Okay.
So with GCC, you have built-in security features right out of the box.
Okay.
Your data is automatically encrypted, both when it's stored on Google servers and when it's being transmitted over the network.
Okay, that's good.
And you have granular control over who can access your VM.
So it's not just about protecting it from outside threats. It's also about controlling access within my own organization.
Exactly. And GCE has a system called IAM, or Identity and Access Management.
Okay.
And this allows you to define very specific permissions for different users or groups.
Okay.
You can control who can create, modify, or delete VMs,
Gotcha.
and even restrict access to certain parts of your cloud environment.
So it's pretty customizable in terms of who can access what.
Very customizable. You can create custom roles, define policies, even integrate with third-party security systems.
Okay, this is all sounding pretty secure, but what about the cost of all this security?
Yeah.
Am I going to have to shell out a bunch of extra money for this?
Actually, the security features we've been talking about are built into GCE.
Okay.
So no additional costs. It's part of Google's commitment to providing a secure and reliable cloud platform.
All right, so I'm getting all the security. I don't have to pay anything extra for it. I like that.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
A win-win.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered a lot, but you mentioned persistent disks earlier.
Right.
We didn't really talk about what those are or why they matter.
Yeah, so persistent disks, they're a key component of GCE. Essentially, they're virtual hard drives that you can attach to your VMs, and they provide durable storage for your data. And they can be easily resized, snapshotted, backed up.
So basically, they're like the hard drives in my computer, but they have that cloud flexibility.
Exactly, and they come in different flavors.
Okay.
So you can choose standard persistent disks for general purpose storage, or you can opt for SSD persistent disks. These are for high-performance applications that need those fast read and write speeds.
Okay, makes sense, but what about the data on those disks? Is that safe?
Yeah, so persistent disks are automatically encrypted at rest.
Okay.
So just like the rest of your data on GCE, and you have that same granular control over who can access those disks and what they can do with them.
So it's just as secure as everything else we've been talking about.
Exactly.
Okay, so let me recap this. We've got customizable virtual machines.
Yep.
We've got that global scalability.
Yeah.
We've got robust security. We've got live migration, so there's no downtime.
Right.
We've got preemptible VMs if I'm trying to save some money.
Yep.
And now we've got these persistent disks for reliable storage.
Yeah.
It sounds like GCE has got it all.
Yeah, and that's just scratching the surface. There's so much more to explore, from advanced networking features to sophisticated monitoring tools.
Well, I think we're going to need a whole other deep dive to get into all that.
Absolutely.
We'll have to save that for next time.
Definitely.
But for now, I think we've laid a really good foundation.
Absolutely. Good overview.
Yeah, we've explored what GCE is, why it's so powerful, and how people are actually using it.
Right.
So for our listeners, if you're thinking about taking the plunge into the cloud, I think GCE is definitely worth a closer look.
I would agree with that.
All right, well, we'll be back soon with more on Google Compute Engine. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Welcome back.
All right. So last time, we laid a good foundation for what Google Compute Engine is.
Right.
We talked about all those core features, the virtual machines, the scalability, all that good stuff.
Yeah, we covered a lot.
We covered a lot, but there's always more to uncover.
Absolutely.
You mentioned that GCE is being used for things like machine learning, which to me is like this field that is just exploding right now. But I'll be honest, it's still kind of a black box for me. I don't really get how GCE fits into that.
That's a great question.
Like, what's the connection there?
Yeah, it shows how GCE is really becoming kind of essential infrastructure for all these cutting-edge technologies.
Okay.
So machine learning, it's all about training these algorithms on massive amounts of data.
Right.
And that takes a ton of processing power.
Makes sense.
And GCE provides access to specialized hardware.
Okay.
Like GPUs and TPUs, which are designed for these heavy computations.
Okay, I've heard those terms before, GPUs, TPUs, but I got to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't really know what they are or why they're so special for machine learning. Can you break that down for me a little bit?
So think of it this way, like a regular CPU.
Okay.
That's like your general purpose worker, good at a lot of tasks, but not necessarily a specialist.
Okay.
GPUs, those were originally designed for graphics, but they're really exceptional at parallel processing, which is crucial for machine learning because there's so many complex calculations happening all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And TPUs, these are Google's custom designed chips,
Right.
and they're even more optimized for machine learning workloads.
So what you're telling me is with GCE, I'm not just getting these virtual machines.
Right.
I'm getting access to this kind of hardware that would normally be like way out of reach for, someone like me.
Exactly. It's like having a supercomputer at your fingertips without that massive upfront investment.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it opens up all these possibilities, not just for researchers or these big tech companies, but really for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone that wants to leverage the power of machine learning.
Okay, so what are some actual examples? Like, how are people using GCE for machine learning in the real world?
Well, we talked about the healthcare industry, how companies are analyzing medical images for early disease detection.
Right.
But there's so many other examples. Financial institutions are using it for fraud detection.
Okay.
Retailers are using it for personalized recommendations.
Okay.
Manufacturers are using it to optimize their production processes.
Wow.
It's really transforming industries across the board.
Okay, this is starting to make a lot more sense now.
Good.
But I want to switch gears for a second
Right.
and talk about something that's always top of mind for me, and that's cost management.
Right.
We talked about these preemptible VMs earlier
Yeah.
as a way to save money, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about how they work.
So preemptible VMs, they're essentially like spare capacity on Google's infrastructure.
Okay.
They're much cheaper than regular VMs.
All right.
But the caveat is Google can reclaim them if they need the resources for something else.
So it's like I'm getting a discount in exchange for being flexible.
Exactly. And for certain types of workloads, this can be a really good trade-off.
Okay.
So think about like batch processing.
Good.
If you have a large data set, it needs to be processed, let's say, overnight.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily need those VMs running 24/7.
Okay.
Preemptible VMs could be perfect for that.
So it's all about, matching the type of VM to the specific task that you're trying to accomplish.
Exactly. And that's one of many cost optimization strategies with GCE.
Okay.
So you can also right-size your VMs.
Okay.
Choose the appropriate amount of CPU, memory, and Google offers sustained use discounts. So the longer you run your VMs, the lower your hourly rate.
Okay, so there's multiple levers we can pull here
Multiple levers, yeah.
to keep those costs in check.
Yeah, absolutely.
But beyond the cost savings, what are some of the other key benefits that GCE offers?
Well, one of the big ones is reliability.
Okay.
We talked about live migration earlier,
Right.
which allows Google to do maintenance without interrupting your applications.
Mm-hmm.
But GCE also has built-in redundancy and fault tolerance.
Okay.
So your virtual machines are distributed across multiple physical servers.
Okay.
So if one server fails, your applications just keep running.
So it's like a safety net.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That peace of mind is invaluable.
Especially for businesses that, need those apps running 24/7.
Absolutely. 24/7.
Okay, so reliability is one thing, but what about flexibility? How easy is it to adapt GCE as my needs change?
So flexibility is another key strength of GCE.
Okay.
You customize those virtual machines to your exact specifications.
Right.
But you can easily change those specifications later on.
Right.
Need more storage, expand your persistent disk, need more processing power, upgrade your VM instance. It's all about agility and being able to respond to those changing demands.
Okay, so we're kind of bringing it all together now. We've got those customizable virtual machines, global scalability, that rock-solid security.
Right.
We've got the live migration for no downtime, preemptible VMs for cost savings, and now we're talking about built-in reliability and flexibility.
It's a comprehensive package.
It is.
And it's all backed by Google's massive infrastructure and expertise.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We talked about how GCE is used for machine learning. We've delved into those cost optimization strategies. We really highlighted those key benefits of reliability and flexibility. Yeah. But are there any other use cases that really stand out? What about things like, DevOps or application testing? Like, how does GCE fit into that world?
That's a great point, and it really highlights how GCE can be a game changer for software development teams.
Okay.
Imagine being able to spin up and tear down complex test environments like in minutes.
Wow.
All with a few clicks.
Right.
That speed and agility is so valuable in today's world.
That makes sense.
So it's not just about running those production applications.
Right.
It's about streamlining the entire development process.
So GCE can kind of help out at every stage of the game.
Exactly. And because it's so easy to create and manage those virtual machines, developers can experiment, they can test new features, get feedback quickly without having to worry about setting up and maintaining that physical hardware.
It's like a virtual playground.
It is. It's a virtual playground.
Where they can try new things without breaking anything in the real world.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. It's not just about virtual machines.
Right.
It's about transforming the way businesses operate.
Absolutely.
From how they develop software, to how they analyze data, to how they connect with their customers.
It's about empowering businesses to be more agile, more innovative, and ultimately more successful.
Well, you've convinced me. I'm definitely feeling inspired to explore this further.
Good.
But, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I got to ask, what about the learning curve? Is GCE difficult to learn, to use?
So that's a common question, but I can assure you it's surprisingly user-friendly.
Okay.
Google's done a great job creating intuitive interfaces and providing comprehensive documentation. There's tons of tutorials, online resources to help you get started.
So you're saying that even someone like me, who doesn't have a ton of technical experience, could potentially wrap my head around this?
Absolutely. I mean, there's always a learning curve with any new technology, but GCE is designed to be accessible.
Okay, good to know. I'm definitely feeling more confident about diving in and exploring this further. But for now, I think we've covered a ton of ground here.
We have.
And I'm really excited to hear about some of those real-world examples that you mentioned earlier.
Absolutely. So we're going to look at some specific companies that are using GCE to do some remarkable things.
Perfect.
And really see how it's making a tangible impact.
All right. Well, we'll save that for the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good.
Okay. So we've talked a lot about the what and the why of Google Compute Engine.
Right. We've laid the groundwork.
But now I'm ready for the how.
The how, Kit.
Show me the real-world examples. Show me how companies are actually putting this thing to work.
Yeah, that's where it gets really exciting. We can move beyond the theory and actually see the impact that GCE is having.
Exactly. And, one of the things that's really stuck with me throughout this whole deep dive is the idea of using GCE for machine learning.
Yeah, it's a powerful use case.
I'd love to hear some concrete examples of how that's actually playing out.
Absolutely. So let's take the financial industry, for example.
All right.
Companies are using GCE to build these incredibly sophisticated fraud detection systems.
Okay.
These systems are analyzing massive data sets of transactions in real time.
Wow.
Using machine learning algorithms to identify patterns and anomalies that might indicate fraudulent activity.
So instead of relying on those kind of rules-based systems.
Right, which can be easily bypassed.
Yeah, which can be easily bypassed. They're using GCE to create these adaptive systems that can learn and evolve as new fraud tactics emerge.
Exactly. It's a much more dynamic and effective approach.
That makes a lot of sense.
And it's not just about catching the fraudsters.
Right.
GCE is also being used to personalize financial services, offering tailored recommendations and insights to customers based on their individual needs.
Okay, so it's like making those financial institutions more secure, more efficient, and more customer-centric.
All at the same time.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah, and we're seeing these kinds of transformations across other industries as well. So retailers, for example, they're using GCE to power their e-commerce platforms, providing that seamless and personalized shopping experience
To millions of
in the
customers.
millions of customers worldwide, yeah. So they can analyze browsing patterns, purchase history, even social media activity
Wow.
to offer those personalized recommendations, target promotions, optimize inventory management.
That's incredible. But what about industries that aren't as, tech savvy? I'm thinking about things like agriculture or manufacturing.
Yeah, good question.
Can GCE really make a difference in those sectors?
Absolutely. So let's look at agriculture. There's this company, they're using GCE to connect farmers directly with consumers.
Okay.
So people can buy fresh produce from local farms without going through those traditional grocery store channels.
So they're kind of creating this like virtual marketplace.
Exactly, a virtual marketplace for local produce.
That's really cool.
And it's not just about connecting buyers and sellers.
Yeah.
They're also using GCE to optimize logistics, track shipments, ensure quality control, all while providing valuable data and insights to the farmers to help them improve their yields and operate more efficiently.
So it's kind of like a win-win for everyone involved.
Exactly, and it's a great example of how GCE can disrupt these traditional industries and create these new business models.
Yeah, that's a great point. What about manufacturing? How is GCE being used there?
So manufacturers are using GCE to optimize their production processes,
Okay.
reduce waste, improve quality control.
Okay.
They can connect sensors and machines to the cloud, collect real-time data on performance, and use that data to identify bottlenecks, predict maintenance needs, and just make adjustments to optimize their output and their efficiency.
So it's like they have this virtual control center for the entire factory.
Exactly.
They can see everything that's happening
Real-time visibility.
and make decisions based on that data.
Yeah, and with machine learning, they can take it even further.
Oh.
Build predictive models, anticipate problems before they even occur.
Yay.
Make proactive adjustments, prevent downtime, maintain those quality standards.
So it's really about using technology to solve real-world problems.
Exactly.
Improve efficiency, create new opportunities.
And that's what makes it so exciting. It's not just a tool for tech companies or developers. It's a platform that can empower any business, really any business, to innovate and thrive.
I'm totally convinced. You've sold me GCE as a game changer.
Good. Glad to hear it.
I'm definitely feeling inspired to explore further, see how I can apply this to my own projects, my own ideas.
That's great. And remember, Google offers that free tier.
Right, right.
You can start experimenting without any risk. Tons of tutorials, documentation, online resources.
Perfect. I'll definitely be checking those out.
Awesome.
Well, this has been an amazing deep dive. We've explored the core features, we've seen real-world use cases, and we've learned about the potential of this technology.
Yeah, it's been a great conversation.
I'm walking away with a whole new understanding of what Google Compute Engine is all about.
That's what we like to hear.
And I think our listeners are too.
Hopefully they are.
So, if you're out there and you're thinking about taking the plunge into the cloud, I think GCE is definitely something you should be considering.
It's a powerful platform.
It is. All right. Well, that's it for this deep dive into Google Compute Engine. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.